So here we are. Here we go. All right, we did it. All right, welcome everybody to the DoorDash IPO watch party. I am Laura Moreno Lucas, the founder of PandoCap, and I am joined today with my co-host Marisela Garcia Marquez. We plan to walk through what is actually going to happen on today's DoorDash IPO for the company. And we're, given that there's two fantastic companies that are hitting the market this week, the DoorDash and Airbnb IPOs, I thought it would be a very educational exercise to do a watch party around it and share the information with our PandoCap community. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about how it all goes down. So Marisela and I are going to comment on what's happening on CNBC as they're getting ready to, in the next 30 minutes, to price the IPO and what's actually happening behind the scenes as the price is coming together, as DoorDash becomes a public company. All right, well, with that, Marisela, do you want to take it away?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, hola, buenos días, good morning, everyone. Again, I am Marisela Garcia Marquez. I am a contributor here at PandoCap, and I am very excited to be part of this historic moment for DoorDash and the U.S. market. A little bit about DoorDash. DoorDash is a San Francisco-based food delivery company founded in 2013. DoorDash controls about 50% of the U.S. food delivery market, well ahead of their competition, Uber Eats and Grubhub. So today, like I said, again, as Laura has mentioned, it's a very exciting time for DoorDash and their IPO. DoorDash is set to cash in on the frenzy in initial public offerings. The San Francisco, again, food delivery company is priced at the high end of $102 a share. At $102 or above, DoorDash will be valued at $39 billion or more on a fully diluted basis, and including proceeds from the offering, which is expected to raise at $3.37 billion or more. Fueled by a surging stock market and the stellar performance of a recent technology listing, the volume of dollars raised on U.S. exchanges already has set a record, with 401 offerings raising nearly $146 billion this year, far outpacing the previous full-year record set in 1999 when $108 billion was raised, according to the Deal Logic IPO data that goes back to 1995. So Laura, talk to us about what happened this morning with the opening bell.
Yeah, and it's funny that we had the indication last night about it being $102, and now it's kind of outrageous where it is. I think that the last time I looked on what they're saying right there, if you can see on CNBC, they're talking about it now being at 170 to 175. So things are changing this morning as it gets ready to go. So really, what's happening now? So I think one of the things that's important to call out is that, this morning, DoorDash rang the opening bell on the New York Stock Exchange. So you might have seen, for those on the East Coast and maybe those who get up early on the West Coast, that big ceremony where, you ring that opening bell and everybody celebrates. One thing to note is there's actually two bells a day. There's an opening bell and a closing bell. And the funny thing is, a lot of people always get confused about the opening bell being when the company actually starts trading. So, which is not, as you're seeing now, what's happening is that they're building the book so that they can see what the price is going to be to the public markets. So it's an entirely different process. So when you actually ring that opening bell, again, it's not that you can automatically start trading on the public market. It's really just for the company. It's a celebration. It's to really get the world to know, hey, we're DoorDash and we're gonna, be showcasing to the public markets shortly. And here's what we're gonna determine the price is going to be. So after that, and I know that you can comment on like what's actually happening now. I know that's your next question, right, Marisela? What's
Yes, actually, I do. And PandoCat, we're so passionate and about what we do through this platform and to making sure that we do provide the awareness and educational resources for our community who don't understand, right, the IPO process. And so I just want to emphasize or ask you one more question, Laura, because I think this is really important for our community. You mentioned right now the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that what that means is that there's buyers and sellers that are being put together and matched to say, okay, how much interest is coming in right now to get to price this at, and they're matching those up. And that process, which I'll get into a little later, is different on the New York Stock Exchange compared to the NASDAQ. And so they're taking orders right now. The heads of it at the New York Stock Exchange, it's called the direct market maker. They're taking the orders from the investors and getting all of that interest on the buyers to see how much they can, fill that out. And that's what's moving up this price that you're seeing on CNBC, the 170 to 175. So last night, I think the indication was 102. This morning, that price started changing really quickly. It went to 120, then 140, then 150, and now it's at 170, which is pretty interesting because considering that last year I did the Lyft IPO. And they priced at 60, I think it was 67, around 67. So think about that. Lyft is at 67 and DoorDash is at 170 right now. So obviously there's massive interest going on in this IPO and where they think it can go. And Uber, I think the Uber IPO, unfortunately, that one was around the $30 or $40 range, which, if you think about Uber is huge, and Uber priced in a much lower tier than DoorDash. So I think everybody's just excited and wanting to get a piece of the action. And so this price that's being built is, again, right now, everybody's getting their allocations, the investors from the New York Stock Exchange is actually allocating and building that book to see when everything looks like it's been met and the price will hold, then that's when they'll open the markets.
Okay, so this is extremely amazing and very important information for our community. And I think the pandemic definitely, DoorDash knew how to seize this opportunity under the pandemic, and clearly we're seeing it this morning. Okay, so Laura, what is happening now? Explain to us a little bit further.
Yeah, so, what is happening now is actually, as I mentioned this morning, they had the IPO where they had the opening bell, and that's usually with all of their family, their friend, when it was in person, because now they're all doing it remotely. It's usually with their family, their friends, their clients, their board members, investors, employees, partners, like the whole shebang. So, everybody gets together, whether it's in New York or across all of their offices, and gets ready for the celebration to open the bell. Once that ceremony is over, like I mentioned, the bankers go and start working with the heads of either in this case, it's the New York Stock Exchange. That's where DoorDash is listed. And at the New York Stock Exchange, there is a person called the DMM. That's the direct market maker. So they actually lead the process for the New York Stock Exchange, and they work with the lead banker for Goldman. Now, this is a great exercise, and we'll talk a little bit about this later. But for DoorDash, the lead bank on DoorDash, which you guys, I'll show you how to look at that on the S1 a little bit later, is Goldman Sachs. Okay. So Goldman Sachs is actually working with the DMM right now, and they are, again, making sure that everybody's comfortable with the pricing that is going to go public. So they're working and saying, okay, look, we still have more interest from, X bank, Y bank, whoever it is that is wanting to get an allocation before it opens to the public market. So that is what essentially is driving that price up, and they're matching the buyers and the sellers right now, so that once this opens to the public market, there's not huge like waves of the price going up and down. They're trying to stabilize it, right? Because the last thing you want when it opens to the public is having investors, like you and I, come in and buy the stock, and all that 1 minute it's like 170 and the next minute it's like 100. So they're trying to stabilize the price and make sure that all of that is secure, so that they can make sure that it's smooth trading and that it goes up smoothly, hopefully, right? And we're seeing right now on CNBC, Tony looks like he's talking a little bit. Let me see if I can bring the sound in. See what he's saying.
Basketball, and that was one way I learned English, and the other way was actually just by watching TV, and that's how I came up with my name. So I watched a lot of Tony Danza, Who's the Boss, growing up, and when I found out that nobody could pronounce my name, which is Xu Xing in Chinese, fairly difficult for a lot of my classmates to pronounce at the time, I went with my dad to the immigration office to change my name to Tony.
Well, that's DoorDash co-founder and CEO Tony Xu with me on Fort Knox back in March 2018. Who's the boss of the IPO market today? Well, it looks like it's going to be DoorDash. Indications now between 170 and 175 a share, Carl. It priced at 102. And that was a fun conversation. I learned a bit about him, his mom's work in the restaurant business as she built up resources to go back to doing the traditional medicine that she was trained in, and just the stick-to-itiveness that it took to bring this business from PaloAltoDelivery.com, which he and some friends at Stanford set up on a Saturday in 45 minutes.
Can you believe it?
To DoorDash.
Well, I mean, it's the story of many founders based here in the Silicon Valley, right?
$6 billion, 175 to 180 now. So
yeah,
we're getting into
the pricing is increasing as like I'm describing, because everybody's getting their allocation, and it's continuing to drive the price up. And again, the last thing you want to do is open it when there's big disparity happening. So they're stabilizing the price right now. And as I mentioned,
there's a look at the indications, 175 to 180.
Yep.
The opening trade is moments away. Stay with us.
All right, I'm gonna go back to just kind of explaining it a little bit further. And as I was mentioning, they're making sure that it's a good price range for it to go out. It is, to me, it is a little high, as I mentioned, compared to like what I do with Lyft and DoorDash. But there's a lot of interest, and so as you're seeing, this process. Everybody always asks me, well, what time are they going to go? There's no time. It usually takes like, I've seen it take up to 3 hours or potentially even more, because they need to get it right. And they need to take their time. And sometimes these larger IPOs, I think earlier this year we saw Snowflake. It took a lot longer than expected. Palantir. So, it's important that they take their time and they get it right, because the last thing you want is that this starts to go public and there's a lot of waves of, ups and downs on the pricing. So
as I mentioned, we are definitely moments away, Laura. Very exciting. So let's dive into more the stock. So who can buy the stock?
Yeah, right now, it's still not actually on the public market. So the institutional and retail investors are the ones that are getting the allocation. But in any moment now, anyone is going to be able to do that. So as I mentioned, the process takes 1 to 3 hours, and at the New York Stock Exchange right now, it's the direct market maker that's managing that with the head banker for Goldman. And at NASDAQ, actually tomorrow we'll be going through this process with NASDAQ and Airbnb. It's Jay Heller. Hi, Jay, if you're watching, how's it going? So he's the one who runs the process for NASDAQ. And then basically what happens is once this actually goes public, you can log on to your trading platforms and you'll see the ticker for DoorDash. It's ticker dash DASH. You type it in and you'll be able to see what the bid and the ask price is. So technically anybody can buy the stock, but right now sometimes employees are restricted. There are companies like Unity earlier this year. I think they offered their employees to actually purchase some of the stock before it hit the public markets. But sometimes companies put a restriction on the stock for their employees and for, very high executives, because they don't want, all of the employees and the executive team selling off their stock all at one time, because that can cause a big, again, a huge swing. So typically what companies do is that they have a 6-month lockup period for employees and, again, executives, and sometimes founders can even be locked up for a year. But generally outside of some of those people who are involved with the company, technically anyone can buy the stock that has a trading platform. And I would encourage people, if you don't know the types of platforms that are available for you to trade on, I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but I'll share some insights on some of the ones that I use.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, because that was actually a question as I was listening to you. What are some of those current trading platforms that our community can explore? Again, this is very new to many of us, and a way to reach our community, our audience, right, which is primarily Hispanic, Latinx folks in our community in the U.S. And so this would be very helpful, and I know you will dive in a little bit more into that later. But now, can you also share with us, Laura, how is it that all this works when they file their S1?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people start hearing about the companies going public months ahead of time. Maybe some of you had heard back earlier in 3 months ago or even a month ago that DoorDash was going to go public and that they were working on their S1, and that then they filed their S1 and then they flipped their S1. Those are all very different process. So I'm going to bring up really quick what an S1 looks like so that you can get a good understanding of where you find this information. Let me just go here.
Yes, we truly appreciate the visual too, and guiding us by the hand into the process.
All right, so it's a lot of words on this page, right? But here, let me take you to the top portion. So the top portion is really saying that, hey, DoorDash wants to go public. And this is a lot of their information on where they're located, who's involved. You can find out some really interesting information on their S1, like who the lawyers are. Again, I talked a little bit about who the bankers are, and you get more into the nitty gritty. They talk about where they're filing, what their ticker is. Here's their ticker symbol, and how many shares they're going to be selling. And so here's what I talked about earlier. So there's a fun concept called lead left. So what does lead left means? It means the lead banker on this is Goldman Sachs. That's why you see it on the left and bigger than all the other banks. And then you have JP Morgan is also leading as well. That's why they're kind of like to the right, but in big. And then everybody kind of follows below. Then you see Barclays, Deutsche, RBC, UB, and all of these people want to be on it, right? Everybody's kind of fighting for their name to be shown on this little piece here. But as you can see, everybody wants this spot, the Goldman spot, or even the JP spot. But as you can see, it goes down, and the font gets smaller as it goes down. So they get a lot of recognition for being lead left and being the underwriter on this IPO, because essentially what happens is, think about it, the next IPO that comes to market, everybody's going to be like, oh, who did the DoorDash IPO? Oh, it was Goldman and JP. Oh, we got to go to them. So it kind of sets this precedence for those big names that get the lead. And so it's also important to look at other banks and other underwriters. And I'm going to do a little shout out to Pincera. If Francisco's on, he is a great investment banker, and he underwrites a lot of IPOs. And I think they do a great job. They're focused on bringing the Latinx community and that cohort into some of these deals. So go Pincera. So anyways, let's look a little bit at the S1. So then they talk a little bit about, what is DoorDash, all of the information about what they're going to be doing as they go public. And then I gotta do a shout out here. Let's see. I think the story, Tony did a very nice story on here. So sometimes the founders will take and do a personal story. And actually, I haven't seen this done very much. And so I thought it was really cool that the CEO of DoorDash wrote this personal story on this S1. So this is, again, a public document that anybody can look at. And he talks about how when he was 5 years old, he immigrated from China with his parents. And like many immigrants, his family came to the country pursuing the American dream. His dad actually had a PhD in engineering from the University of Illinois, and his mom, she retained her job as a doctor from her occupation in China. But, the odds were against them. They were in the United States. A lot of them didn't recognize her Chinese medical license. So only $250, they're putting their family name. I guess he got put through school. That didn't stop her from putting him through school. He went to Stanford. I think we talked a little bit about this earlier. So there's a great story here about how it all got started. So, definitely take the time to read this. And then as you get further into the S1, it actually talks about, their financials, and, what their projections are for the company as it grows. And then, you get into everybody who's contributing to the S1 and their vision. So there's a lot of information that you can gather from the S1. And I actually recommend reading these if you're thinking about investing in a company and buying their stock, because this is a great way to know what their plans are. And that's really, if you think about, if I want to be an investor in DoorDash, in Airbnb, or any other company, you want to know what their plans are for the future to gain more money, so that you can make money off of, buying their stock. So that's a
lot of information. That's extremely valuable. I think, I want to comment back on the special session that was placed by the founder. I think that it's really important, as I always mention, especially within our Latinx community, is to own your story, own your narrative. And in platforms so large like this, Tony obviously did it. And it's really important to make sure that our voices are heard, not just that, but that our stories are told. So I hope this is, again, another lesson for our community, that it's imperative for people to understand what led to our success, who were those family members that were so influential, who were those community members, those mentors that led us to our next milestone that became so successful, right? So clearly, I love that part, that special touch from Tony. But I also think now it's a great way for us to segment into what we were talking about earlier, Laura, which was about the trading platforms that currently exist. And can you explain to us, where is it that I can buy the stock?
Yeah, there are a lot of trading platforms where you can actually, trade, but and even more recently, there's been a lot of innovation around how you can actually buy stock in fractional shares. There's Schwab slices, but personally, I use good old E-Trade. I dabbled a little bit in Robinhood because I wanted to look at going into a little bit into the cryptocurrency side and seeing how that world works. And now that Bitcoin is like almost at 20,000, I think it's crazy. But regardless of what platforms you use, it's always important to meet with a financial advisor and discuss your shorter long-term goals. I mean, it's okay to invest in maybe 1 or 2 equity stocks if you're wanting to take that risk, and however you want to think about the risk that you're taking and the exposure that you're getting on what you're purchasing. But I recommend, if you're not someone that follows the market on a day-to-day basis, it's important for you to speak to a financial advisor. And I have some go-to for you guys. I have my girl Angela at Modern Money Advisors. She is a great resource for, I would say, for the younger generation, for those who are just starting out and trying to get their financial journey in order. So, for example, if you have a lot of student debt, if you are thinking about buying a car, if you want to think about your first home, and then you have a little bit of money and you want to understand how to, take on that financial journey, and then but also play into some of these investment opportunities, I would suggest you reach out to Angela. And then I can't forget my boy Achilles Lara, who has been a contributor on PandoCap, Lara Wealth Management. So shout out to you both. Both great people, and there's a lot of great financial advisors, financial planners. So those are just ones that have worked with our PandoCap community, and also are bilingual, which is importante. Muy importante.
Demasiado importante. Okay, Laura. So let's wrap it up now here with your final advice, given your phenomenal experience, especially being previously at NASDAQ. What happens once they are public?
Well, we used to say when I was at NASDAQ, I don't know if they're still saying it there, it's like a wedding. Because, you have this big day, you have a big party, you enter the public markets, the company sets the day with all these goals, you have all this PR opportunity, everybody's talking about you, there's all kinds of news and articles that happen on their IPO day. But the key metric obviously is how their stock performs, because if their stock doesn't do well, which obviously DoorDash is doing very well right now, then it's all speculation. So I think, with the pandemic, there has been a lot of gains happening with DoorDash. They were one of the recipients of the positive side of this pandemic. And we hope that continues, and we wish them luck in their journey, that, that momentum continues to be, I would say, the new normal. Right. But, you have to make sure that you are able to sustain your stock price, and then more importantly, get ready for those quarterly earnings calls, right? Because that means every quarter they're going to have to come out. So next quarter they're going to have to report on, what happened over, 2021, 2020, like how are they going to hit their goals for the next quarter. So that is what happens after they go public. And right now, again, we were looking at the indication. Looks like, let's see, the valuation. Last I checked, let me bring in CNBC one more time before we sign off here. to see what the indication is now. I think it's still at 170, but let's take a look before we sign off to give everybody a little taste. I think they're just doing a comparison. I think it still hasn't gone out yet. So
Okay.
yeah, so it looks like they're still trying to again get the right price. They are thinking that it is a little bit too high right now. You know, a lot of people are saying that the valuation is going a little too high on DoorDash. So we'll see. But you know, again, if you want to get a piece of the action, it should be opening here soon. And we wish them luck, because I think, you know, it's a great company. It's innovative. It's a fantastic story. The founder truly was one of those amazing growth stories that we see coming out of Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You shared so much valuable information with our audience today. And I just want to always congratulate you. You're a fellow Latina. I'm always so excited to see the success of the women in our community. And you're definitely a key leader, a driver. I mean, I know we have a lot of, you know, great Latino Latinx founders, and I think with platforms like yours, Laura, it will definitely support and continue to leverage the visibility of our own entrepreneurs. And so I just want to give a quick shout out and congratulate all our Latinx founders. This is a tough, right, Laura? You understand that being an entrepreneur, it's tough. You have to navigate so many challenges, but it's totally doable. And so stories like this continue to inspire us. So mil gracias.
Oh, thank you, Marisela. Yeah, I'm so excited that I can share, you know, my knowledge with not only the PandoCap community, but you know, the broader community, our broader Latino community. I'm really excited to continue to, you know, focus on financial education within the capital markets. I think it's very important because it's a way for us to build wealth and be able to offer those opportunities to the next generation so that they can understand, hey, if you not only want to be an entrepreneur, or let's say even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you want to be involved in understanding what happens in the capital markets, there are a lot of different opportunities for our community to learn from, to gain opportunities in, and really to grow. And I know that, you know, we are one of the fastest growing here in the United States. So I want to definitely be at the forefront to help the next generation get to whatever dreams they have. So thank you so much, Marisela. And thank you everybody for listening on our quick market watch party for the DoorDash IPO. And tomorrow, don't forget to tune in. We'll be here at the same time, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, to watch what happens with Airbnb. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Adios.
Yes.